Happy holiday weekend Monday. It is Monday already, July 3rd. Tomorrow is Independence Day, and we are back with another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. We're going to shake it off right at the bat. We asked a question today over on Twitter, or at least Zach did, about which Denver Broncos are superstars, stars, could be stars, and I want to jump right into that. But first, gentlemen, could you give me an expected stat line for Russell Wilson going into 2023?
Go ahead, Zach. I want you to lead the way.
Oh, man, that's so tough.
Let's get the hate out of the way.
And Bree said we couldn't look up past stat lines.
Rapid fire.
3,500 yards and 28 touchdowns.
How many interceptions?
Oh, man.
28.
No, 14 is way too high. 8.
All right, Joey.
I'm going to say 3,700 yards. I'm going to go lower on the touchdowns. I'm going to go like 23. And then I'm going to go I'll go 10 interceptions.
All right. I went 3,500, 23 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Just for reference, last year it was 3,524, 16 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. So, the Jimmy Garoppolo levels of meh. But let's get into why we think we've got the superstars panned out here for the Denver Broncos, and the list might shock you. I think we're unanimous in the top 2 superstars for the Denver Broncos. We want to hear from you as well. So if you want to jump on over to the YouTube, the Facebook stream by searching Mile High Sports on either of those platforms, you can engage with us over here. We got a couple of people in the chat already. Cal's here. Frankie's here. He said he wants to see some rats in the chat. I don't think he's calling y'all rats, but maybe he's calling us rats. So jump on in, give us your expected stat line for Russell Wilson, and then let us know who the superstars of the Denver Broncos are or going to be for 2023. Guys, Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain, I think, have to be the top 2 superstars for the Denver Broncos. But since we were talking about Russell Wilson, does he or does he not exist in that top tier?
No. Well, actually, so it depends how we're talking about it. Superstar. What does superstar mean? That is something we have to establish here, because he is definitely a superstar, guys.
There's definitely a celebrity.
No doubt about it that he's a celebrity.
He's definitely a celebrity, but I don't think he's a superstar.
It's more than a celebrity, bro.
No, it's a celebrity, because what you're talking about is like stardom. And because it's like a crossover, like I get why we got to suss this out. But in my opinion, that's like, at least in the NFL context, that's celebrity. And I think he's a big celebrity still. Do I think he's like a superstar player? No. Now, to Joey's point, and we'll talk about this when we get into guys that are maybe potential superstars, I think positional value and like notoriety and all of that is a factor. But to me, it's more secondary. To me, it's like, I don't know, 20% of the equation or something. And that's why I think if Russ plays well again, he's one of the guys who I have listed in I think he can be a potential star player again, because I can totally see that under Sean Payton, getting him back to like middle of the road, and then he's still Russell Wilson, and you'll have this whole story about his resurgence. I think the offensive pieces around him could end up being really nice. But he's not a superstar to me, especially after what we saw last year.
Frankie Abbott says he is a superstar, and I guess he gives the definition, or at least an example here, that he was the major headline of the Broncos last season. I don't know where I fall on this. We didn't see that answer so much in Zach's thread. We did see a couple of other recommendations over there, but Russ wasn't included. Do you think that there's a potential he could jump back into superstardom for the Denver Broncos?
No, because he's not going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I think his time of superstardom is come and gone. Like I get how we could, like, to the average person, yes, Russ is still a superstar, but I think, I don't know, on the NFL scale, when I'm talking about it, I mean more red chip stuff. I get that they didn't mention Simmons a single time last season, but to me, I don't know. I guess who's the most famous Denver Bronco is a much less interesting conversation to me. I definitely view it more as like who are the best football players in the league. I do think it's like a small factor, the celebrity of it all. I do think that's something that dings Justin.
Was Tim Tebow ever a superstar? Ever in his
Not in the way I'm defining it. I'd say like in the way I'm defining it, he'd be a celebrity. Now, like I get what you're saying. He was incredibly famous, and in that sense, yes, he was a superstar. I'm not going to debate that. I just think I'm using it more like, wow, that guy's a superstar. Or like you draft a guy in the NBA, like, is this a foundational superstar we build around? Like Jokic, is he a superstar? Is he not? Jamal Murray, is he a star? Is he not? That's kind of.
You know how many people said no though to Jokic up until he just won this finals? That's kind of my point. Like you have to somewhat be in the headlines to then be considered a
you had
superstar.
to win. I think you had to win, but I don't like. To me, when people talk about that from an NBA team building approach, they're not like, can this guy get enough Twitter followers? It's like, can this guy be one of the top 6 talents in the NBA and one of the guys you can build a championship team around? That's kind of what I'm going for here.
Okay, so Frankie is coming back with a follow-up question. Do you actively have to be a top 5 player in the position to be a superstar? Is Aaron Rodgers a superstar? I'm going to say actively not. I think if you're actively talking about the position, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a superstar quarterback. I think that he's a popular quarterback to talk about. So in Zach's sense, when we're talking about Russell Wilson's a big name quarterback. As far as production goes, not very superstar-like behavior. I guess it depends on how we're defining this moment. I was going with, the best in their position groups, which just happen to be Surtain and Simmons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. I think, and I don't think it's top 5 at every position. Like at wide receiver, I think like you look at the list of all the talented wide receivers in the league, I think you could argue there's like 15 at a position like, and again, I think notoriety comes into play when we're talking about guards. Like, I don't know how many superstar guards there are in the NFL. Like 3, I don't know, like Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson, and I'm probably forgetting a third one. I know I'm forgetting a third really good one, but to me, I don't know. That's way further down the scale. At quarterback, for example, I think there's probably like 5, 6 superstar talents, and then maybe if you want to go with stars, you go out to like 12 or so. I think you could even argue there's fewer superstars than stars.
Okay, while we're defining what a superstar is real quick, I need to ask you guys, does position matter in becoming a superstar? Like, could I be a superstar player at guard in a position that does not affect the team as much? Or can I be a superstar punter? Like, where are we drawing the lines?
I think if you're that good at your position and if you're making waves in that position across the league, then you qualify yourself as a superstar, even if you're a punt returner. Like at some point, if you are doing so well at your position, that qualifies you, even if you're at a very lesser known role within the team or within the league. I think that does qualify. If you have the best kicker on your team and you can show it in stats and in the way that the production affects the team and their win rate, I don't see why not.
Okay. To me, I think when you're previewing the season, like when we're previewing this upcoming Broncos season, we're looking over the roster, the depth chart, whatever, and you go over the positions. Are you saying the Broncos have a blank, fill in the position? The Broncos have a superstar cornerback. No problem saying that. The Broncos have a superstar safety. I actually think we could debate that a little if we wanted to, kind of what Joey's saying. He's never made first team All-Pro. I think that's an oversight, but outside of Denver, he's not necessarily viewed as this unquestioned superstar safety. Though I would have him there. Do you have, I think it's a lot harder for a guard to be a superstar, but could I see myself going, man, Quinn Miners is a star guard at some point later on this season? Absolutely.
I think that's the max though for me for a guard. Like that's kind of my thing. I don't think you affect the game enough. I don't. That's my opinion. I don't think you could be I don't care how good you are at being a gunner. You're not making my superstar star, potential star. You're not making a single list of mine. I don't care.
What, 60 some snaps a game or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm just that is the extreme, but that's the example I'm giving. I think to be in superstar, you need to be at a position that's insane, or you need to be so transcendent that it doesn't matter. You need to be Aaron Donald on that defensive line. You need to be one of those guys. Chris Jones.
So if your
there.
run block win rate is just astronomical, as we were seeing last year with some tackles, like, are you telling me that does not constitute superstar tackle status?
Tackle, I think you can be a superstar. I'm arguing guard center.
You're just completely disregarding guards.
I think guards and centers is probably your match. You could be a star. That's your max almost. I think if you're a punter or a kicker, I'm not including you in star or superstar.
I disagree.
If you like, there's certain things that I don't care. You're not.
How would you qualify it, Zach? Then by disagreeing, how would you qualify it?
I just specialists play a fifth of the position, a fifth of the snaps of these other positions. Like I think absolutely. You can be a superstar at guard. You can be an elite guard that changes the game for your team. I don't think Quentin Nelson was there last year.
I'll tell you why, Zach.
I think it's fewer, but I think there are. And also, like, I don't want to get buried in the weeds too much on this. I think
it's an interesting
have different definitions.
I think so. Let me explain why I think you can't, because and then we're not separating things far enough. The best cornerback in the league is massively more important than the best guard in the league. Yeah, I can't have them in the same corners. I can't.
Sure.
I can get a lot more corners playing meaningful snap counts. I think there's more star corners. Like I agree with you. The positional value matters some. I don't think I'd mention a single kicker, or maybe Justin Tucker. But like I don't think I definitely wouldn't mention a single punter in the superstar club. I think some guards can belong there. I think some inside linebackers can belong there. Is it harder for them? Absolutely. But I'm not going to throw out all guards. Like if John Hannah was still in his prime, he's a superstar.
Okay. So I love it. I like it. Joey has single-handedly dismantled the episode. That's fine. We're going to roll with it. Without going a little too literal with the definition of superstar star, let's talk about the current iteration in the Denver Broncos roster heading into 2023 with what we assume are individuals who are going to make the roster, because it's going to be a little weird if they don't. And let's talk a little bit. We know the superstars, but let's go into who could be superstars this year, because I think that list is a little bit longer. I'm going to throw out Greg Dulcich, because what we've seen from him last season, I think he's got a streamlined main line in Sean Payton's system to be a superstar tight end in the league and a member of the Broncos that we consider a top level participant in the game of football for the Denver Broncos. So tell me why I'm wrong. Why is Greg Dulcich not going to be a superstar next season or this season?
I have him more in potentially to be a star range for me, Bree. That's me personally. I have nothing, and that's valuable. If I can get, that's where I would put him in, potentially to be a star tight end. One of the better tight ends in the NFL is what I would consider that. Superstar to me. How many superstar tight ends are even in the NFL right now, guys? That's a question I'd like to ask. Yeah.
I think there's one. Kyle Pitts could become two. Now, and I honestly think that's an argument for favoring Greg Dulcich, because I don't think tight end is in the guard box, even where we're saying like it's not a very valuable position. I think, especially in the modern NFL, those guys that can impact the game, like a Travis Kelce, like that Kyle Pitts projects to maybe be one day, are incredibly valuable and are absolutely superstars. There just aren't many of them. And so in that sense, if Frankie's mentioning Kittle, thankfully, yes, I think Kittle's a superstar when he's healthy. The health is the big question there. But to me, I could see the path to Dulcich becoming a top 5 tight end, just because I think there's such a good drop off after Kelce and Kittle. I don't think he'd be a superstar. I don't see Dulcich as a player, and I've been wrong on Dulcich plenty of times before, but I don't see him as a player that's going to impact a game on a superstar level like Travis Kelce. When the Broncos play Travis Kelce twice a year, it's like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And I don't think Dulcich will ever quite be that, even though I think he can get a good bit better. I don't know how high the athletic ceiling is. I don't think he's going to be wrecking games like Kelce. Though,
could you see him having? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I want to throw you another oop. Could you see him having 100 targets? Is it going to be more or less than 100 targets?
I think less, just because 100 targets, and then probably I'd say that's maybe a little high, but yeah, I could totally see 100 targets. I think he can be a star tight end. I'd love to have him on my dynasty team in fantasy. Like, I think he's going to be very productive. I think he's going to be a good player, but I think we look at why he was so productive as a rookie, and it's like innate feel for the game, really good polished route runner, and like has an excellent understanding of space and leverage and like really soft hands. Like those are elements of polish, I feel. And so I think he's already really polished, and I don't know how, if there's room, like if he is I don't know if there's the room for refinement for him to level up all the way to like superstar, though I think he can be a star talent.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. So I agree. I think that there's going to be, the reason why I would be hesitant to say potential superstar is because while you could be a top 3 tight end, but the gap is still so big between 2 and 3 that you're still closer to those bottom guys. You're more in that than you are to a Kittle or Kelsey, which is the reason why I would put him in that range. And like Zach said, I mean, Bree, you've been right about Greg Dulcich here this entire time, while Zach and I have been completely wrong. So, hey, you know what? I'm ready to be wrong again. This guy's a superstar. We're looking good. We are looking really, really good.
Maybe it's a little bit of optimism mixed in there because you need targets and you need a quarterback to throw the ball. Zach.
Yeah, can I? If Bree, I don't want to rain on your Dulcich parade, but do you mind if I throw out a potential superstar?
Please do.
Oh man, I'm tempted here. I could go with one that I think we'll disagree on, but I got to go with my guy, Jerry Jeudy. I think this is the year Jerry Jeudy becomes a superstar. I think the biggest argument against it is kind of what I was saying earlier. There's so many superstar wide receivers. Like, I think it's hard to crack that elite list. I don't know, where do you put the number? Like, if you put it at 10 or 15, if you put it at 10, like CeeDee Lamb's barely scratching that list. And so at that point, I don't know if Jeudy can get there, but I think he can be an elite pass catching talent. And I think we saw it last year. Over the back end of the season, he's a top 15 receiver against zone. All season long, he was number 1 against man. And again, in a dominant way, like number 2 since 2014 against man coverage in terms of per snap production. So just absolutely dominant. And yeah, I think that ability to create space, beat cornerbacks, that's always going to be the best way to win at wide receiver in the NFL. And I know the number one argument against him is going to be consistency. And so I looked this up today. This is a fun little consistency stat for you. He tallied at least 50 yards in 11 of the 14 games he was healthy, a rate of 78.6%. 10 of the final 11 games, which is when I really think he turned the corner. But I'll still take the full season view, 78.6%. Emmanuel Sanders, who, like, when I think of Denver Broncos wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders, and I'm thinking of like his top, like what really made him special for the Broncos. It's how reliable he was, how consistent he was. He achieved that rate just once, and it was in 2014 when Peyton Manning was still elite. Without an elite quarterback, he never hit that rate. He only came close to it even once. So Jerry Jeudy, I think, was plenty consistent last year, and I think the inconsistency things are more about his rookie and sophomore season.
We're going to get back into the conversation of the definition of superstar status, right? Because when I think about superstar wide receiver, it's Devontae Adams, it's Tyreek Hill, it's AJ Brown, it's Jefferson. So no. I mean, that would be amazing, but no, I don't know if that's going to happen with this offense, with Russell Wilson, with Sean Payton, with Jerry Jeudy, with consistency, with what you have at hand, what you have to work with. That Play-Doh dough ball is only so workable. I think that it could be high. You guys were both looking at me in a way that it looked like you had frozen, and I was like, "Oh no, I lost."
No, you're good. You're good.
But I'm honestly kind of concerned on what you can mold that into and at what level, right? Do I think he could be a high performing wide receiver in which the Denver Broncos are rallying around for years to come while he's still here? I just don't see superstar status. I hope I'm wrong. That's a big step to step onto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the other superstars in this list, you're really sitting there wondering can Jerry Jeudy be in the same class as Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain, who we are saying are the definite superstars of this team? Zach, you mentioned that, Jerry Jeudy, you think fans are saying that Emmanuel Sanders is the definition of consistent and stuff like that. And I totally agree with you there. I think, and I do, I think that to this point, Emmanuel Sanders has been more consistent, although Emmanuel Sanders was more consistent, although the stats that you said wouldn't say that, just because there's an opportunity thing there, right? I think Emmanuel Sanders was really, really it was like Emmanuel Sanders never blows his opportunities at a big play. That was kind of the thing. Whereas Jerry Jeudy has on occasion every once in a while. So that's, I think, more so the consistency thing. And I'm not holding that against Jeudy at this point because he's still very young. Emmanuel Sanders, if you guys don't remember, he was a guy that came over from free agency from the Pittsburgh Steelers and blew up as a Bronco in his second contract. That's something that's worth noting. So Jerry Jeudy has more developing to do. I do think that he possibly could become a superstar. I probably would say it's a long shot in 1 year. I think in a 2-year span, it's a better shot at it. I just want to see the progression. That's what I'm looking for. Can Jerry Jeudy be a star this year? I really hope so. I think that comes with health, and I think he's just going to get there. And then it's just getting better at playing wide receiver. I think eventually he could definitely get there.
And so when Bree was talking about, the elite wide receivers of the NFL, right? I think like Cooper Kupp, right? Devontae Adams, she mentioned. AJ Brown, she mentioned. Justin Jefferson. On a per snap production basis, Judy's torching these people. And also you look at the elite names against man coverage. It's all those names we just listed. And Judy's ahead of them if we're talking last year. And then if we're talking about the scope since 2014 and all those guys' best years, he's ahead of all of them but Kupp when Kupp was getting MVP votes. And I think the thing for me, I think Jeudy can get there because last year's offense was just so dysfunctional and he was still doing it in that offense. And the reason I think it didn't blossom more, become a bigger deal, was because teams did not have to ever play man coverage against the Broncos. They played zone at crazy rates. Like in the NFL, no team, to my knowledge, is playing zone more than 55% of snaps. Against the Broncos, teams were playing it like 70, 80% of snaps. It's crazy. They're playing it at an absurd rate because Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson just could not beat it last year. That's not going to happen with Sean Payton. Sean Payton hunts matchups and picks at them like a kid with a scab. And I think Jeudy is going to also, you're going to have better quarterback play this year under Sean Payton. I don't know where Russ improves to, but I think it's going to be improvement. And you pair those two things up and
doesn't it seem kind of dangerous?
Last year, I think he can, how he was shredding man coverage last year is very similar to how Tyreek Hill was. He just wasn't getting as many opportunities to do it.
I think it's a little dangerous to bank on something that happened with a lack of frequency in order to demand that from a certain player and say that if the conditions are ideal, if everything goes to snuff and it's the ideal circumstances for this plant to grow and flourish, then it's going to be a superstar. To me doesn't, I mean, I get that it would make sense for that to increase the odds, but you're saying if that ideal shakes out for 2023, we're going to see the improvement and it's going to show more. And then we're also saying as long as the quarterback play has improved, then that's going to help that. To quantify stardom by saying as long as 1, 2, 3, and possibly 4 improves, I think that disqualifies superstardom.
I disagree. I think environment is definitely part of the conversation. And I think that's especially true at wide receiver, where you need a quarterback to be functional. You need an offense to be run well by whoever's running the offense. And you need an offensive line to protect the people running the offense so they can hit you in time.
You need a consistent offensive coordinator. You need a consistent system. You need a consistent...
And that's fair. And maybe those are struggles early on, but I really think just going from Nathaniel Hackett to Sean Payton, to me, it's not an if. I guess it is, but wow, I would be stunned if Russell Wilson was somehow worse or even like treading water. I think we're just going to see somewhat of an uptick. I think in terms of now, this I will say, like, put it in cement. And if I'm wrong, like, I don't know, banish me to Mars, because the offense is going to run. They're going to be like better set in their positions. We're not going to have the same mental errors. Nate Tice, who, you know, has been a quality control coach, has been a Division I quarterback, understands this stuff much better than I will. Talked about how the Broncos were his most frustrating watch on offense last year, because it's just like these guys can't even line up correctly. That stuff's not going to happen under Sean Payton. And I think you look at Jeudy outproducing Tyreek Hill, and yes, there was low frequency, but he's still second since 2014 at that frequency. So that frequency is enough to weed out the weird low target rate people. At that rate, he was like burning man coverage worse than Devontae Adams was in his best year, or Tyreek Hill was last year. Like,
but really it's not the whole picture.
And then the zone coverage was elite too. But we're talking about a young player who's improved in that category appreciably year over year. So I think even if he's not number one superstar crazy elite again, I think it's safe to think he's going to be in that top 5-10 group, because we've seen him be on that trajectory over 3 years now.
Sorry, Joey, I thought you were going to go. I thought you saw your hand, so I was waiting for you. Frankie Abbott said at the Athletic Show took the over on the Broncos wins at 8.5. We'll do a preseason prediction where we'll go through what we think the win-loss record is going to be. We're going to go through a whole ton of bold predictions for the season, preseason, and training camp, so you want to tune into that. If you're not already doing so, you need to follow Let's Talk Broncos over on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you're over here on the Mile High Sports stream, you can do that as well. Happy to have everyone in the chat working alongside us. I went Dulcich, Seegers went Jeudy. Joey, that brings us to you.
This one's interesting because I think when the player is on the field, he already is in superstar status. I really do. Like, he plays like a superstar would every single time he's on the field. And that guy is Randy Gregory. The only thing that's holding him back is injuries to this point. I'm being dead serious. When he's on the field, he is in that group. He would be if you played him over a 16-game sample size. If you just clumped the last seasons together and just made it one with the 16 games he played, he would be right up there with Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain. I firmly believe that. He's that great of a talent. The injuries are obviously the big thing. I don't think you can bet on it now, but we're talking guys that could potentially be superstars. And what's more obvious than the guy that's shown that he could? And that's Randy Gregory. So that's my pick there. I don't know how you guys could possibly argue that one.
Well, what I'm going to do is put a little bit of hesitancy, and I honestly have a little bit of PTSD from last season and a couple of seasons before that. You're looking at a real chance for a superstar player to be hindered by injuries, much like we've seen in the Denver Broncos past. It's the real culprit for the Denver Broncos has always been too many injuries too quickly, too early in the season. It steals away all of the ability to have any momentum, and it's just been sustained injury woes and blows left and right. So if he's healthy, that's great. But I could see Randy Gregory turning into a player who isn't able to see much field time.
I totally agree.
And that's the thing. If he's healthy is a colossal if here. He's never played 500 snaps in a single season. And some of that is the fact that he was suspended by the league's marijuana policy early in his career. And that kind of, that stuff's not going to be happening anymore. But since the league kind of cleared those things up, and since he's, not been worried about those substance abuse suspensions, he's still been missing a lot of time because his body has broken down as a result of that wear and tear. But I love the pick just because I fully agree with Joey. We were talking about him last year on this show as like man, if the offense was better, this guy might be a dark horse defensive player of the year candidate before he suffered the injury. Just an absolutely awesome talent. He was playing like a top 5 pass rusher when he was healthy last year. I hope the Broncos get that guy again. Frankly, they're going to need him.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we should probably do is real quickly talk about what an established star looks like. And then we're going to go into the same round of who could be a star this year. I think I'm going to pile them all together here for this one. Established stars currently on the Denver Broncos team. Guys, I need you to go first because I'm torn here. There's a lot of could take the next step players. There's a lot of good players on this team. But what does it mean to be a star?
Yeah, mine, I think it's going to be a little more picky than others for star. You can't just be a starter to be a star. You still need to be good, like really good. You can't just be a guy that started on some teams. You can't. I don't want it. You can't like be a guy that jumped team to team to team to team, just being a stopgap guy and be a star in my books. So I'm going to say Tim Patrick is an established star. That's what I think of Tim Patrick, while I also think that he has room to grow even a little past that. But if we're talking about established consistency, what I feel like I can expect from a player, and it's going to be really good, it's Tim Patrick. I don't think that I have any hesitancy saying that at all, because all that he's shown me is that he's a damn good wide receiver to this point. That's all he's shown me. The concern at this point is only him coming back from injury, which could put that back. But, I'm just going to go off of what I've seen thus far. And Tim Patrick has definitely made himself an established star at this point.
Yeah. And also some of the guys we already listed, like a Judy, I think is already an established star. And then, who did you just say, Joey, for the last one? God, it's escaping me now.
Oh, who did I say? I said Randy Gregory.
Yeah, I think he's already an established star too.
I don't know. I think Randy Gregory can fluctuate.
Oh, fair with the injury. I think yeah. Well, I'll go with the safer one then. An established star, a guy who I think could maybe even be a superstar, but I think the positional value would stop him. DJ Jones, just an elite run stuffing defensive tackle. Last year was his best year rushing the passer. In part because he got more opportunities at it, but he also was in a worse, I don't know if you could even say that. He had great surroundings, but San Francisco's defensive line is pretty ridiculous. But yeah, I think we've seen appreciable growth out of DJ Jones as a pass rusher, and he remains one of the best run stuffers in the league. I also think it should be noted last year, the pass deflections. He deflected passes at one of the highest rates in the NFL, and it's not as valuable as a sack, but it does get the offense behind the sticks. And that's what this whole Fangio defensive wave is kind of about, is getting the offense off schedule at some point in their drive, fostering dead plays, and batting the ball is a good way to do that. He did that 6 times last year, and that provides good defensive value.
Bree, what do you think your established star would be? I'm very curious on your decision.
It's got to be the tandem. It's got to be Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton-esque. You got those linebackers coming in, massive impact on the field, contracts to back it up. I think a really important position. I think we're seeing that those two together, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to include them both because I love them both dearly. I don't think you can include one and not the other. But if I had to choose, I'd say Alex Singleton. He had an absolute stellar last season, and I think that you have to charge ahead with that level type of play, specifically because of the contract, and it warrants that. So if he's not performing to that level, he falls off of the stardom. I would even say it's a little hard to call him a superstar, but at the rate that he was producing out on the field, I think the excitement that he was garnering for this team, it was really fun to watch Alex Singleton, number 49, out on that field. So I would have to go with those two. I think that they're a great duo. I think them together, if it's cheating, I would go Singleton over Jewell. But a lot of people like to discredit Jewell in his production. So I think that you could easily say that it's a hit or miss. One makes it, one doesn't. Do we see the same tandem that we did last season? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I think that this is the year that they both can work themselves in this conversation, like cement themselves in this conversation, Bree. That's where I agree with you. I think Zach and I took the two like ones where it's like plain obvious, and then we left you with the two linebackers, which I feel like they're this thing right there, and it's just cementing themselves now. They played like it last year. If they play like it again this year, they've completely worked themselves in that conversation.
And it's not a fluke at that point, right?
It's not a fluke at that point. And I don't know. I don't think that they could Do you think there's a world where either of these guys could be in a, we had the conversation about could be superstars. Is there a world where they could work themselves in that conversation? Zach, you're muted.
Sorry
Zach,
about
you're
that.
muted, Seekers.
Yeah, no, thank you. Sorry about that. That's I think maybe, I don't know, maybe with Alex Singleton, just because I think the leap he took last year was so insane. I don't see it, and I wouldn't project it. But the way he took over 2-3 games last year, where he just had insane tackle counts. I think he had 19 tackles twice last year. I think he probably had 15 tackles a few other times. If he can, and it's tackles, so it's not the most impactful thing, but like if that stays and if he can do that more regularly and the pass rushing impact stays, we see continued growth as a pass coverage player. I think it could happen. I wouldn't expect it to, but he took such a crazy leap last year where he went from being one of the biggest problems on the Eagles defense. The Eagles needed linebackers and could have had Alex Singleton back for like a training camp contract, and they let him walk. It was the weakest position on their entire team. And then he came to the Broncos and got an all-pro vote. He might have even gotten multiple, but he at least got one all-pro vote last year. Just crazy. If he takes that leap again, we're talking about him being like unanimous first-team all-pro or something. So I think, I don't know. Last year was such a surprise to me, I wouldn't count him out.
Okay.
That's fair. But then now we get to talk about who could potentially be stars. And that's a much longer list. And it makes you kind of consider who are those players that aren't in jeopardy of losing a roster spot. They obviously are starters here in this league. It makes me want to put chips on a player who is going to go against everything that I've been saying probably for the last year. I'm going Caden Stearns to be the next star player. I've been saying Kareem Jackson's going to be the starter there at that position, but I really honestly believe Caden Stearns is going to take that next step and take over that starting spot. So I think that alone solidifies him as a star on the Denver Broncos for 2023. Now, to back that up, I think you just have to realize what you guys have been saying all this year, or all this past offseason heading into this year, is he's done all of the necessary work and it's impossible to ignore. So at what point does he overextend that starter, non-starter capability? It's probably going to be sooner rather than later. And I've been very much so waiting until it's Kareem Jackson has to take a step back. So I think Caden Stearns just has to play better. I mean, like, he's basically going to be playing better than Kareem, and they're going to have to make that logical transition. So
I love this pick. I think he's been a star every time he's like gotten on the field for him, just about. It's kind of hard to call a Nicholas Star to Joey's earlier point at the top of the episode, but I think like when he was thrust into that safety role in place of Justin Simmons, I think he played like a star safety. He's got all the athletic ability in the world. He's got all the smarts and intangibles in the world from all the stories I've heard. Just everyone connected to the Broncos I know and have asked about Caden Stearns has a crazy story about one player or one coach or someone just being blown away by his intelligence and his ability on the whiteboard. He's already been a star, in my opinion, in limited opportunities. Now he's going to have a lot more opportunities, and I think he's got everything you'd want to project that he can continue to grow. I don't think it'll happen this year, but if we do this show 12 months from now, I think we'll be talking about him as a potential superstar.
Yeah, that one's an interesting conversation, right? He's like one of those few guys that hasn't really proven himself yet, but isn't just he's shown flashes of being good, but he really has the ability to get past even that star level if he continues to develop. I don't think he's there yet. Nothing that he hasn't played to that level yet, if I'm being quite frank. He needs to continue to improve. But if I'm talking off of ability, he has the ability to grow even past that star level. He's a guy that, he's phenomenal. He's really good when he's out there on the field. I think health at this point is the one thing you're looking at and you're a little scared, as was much of this Broncos roster. It feels like that is so redundant through this whole entire conversation is, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? But I'm stoked for Caden Stearns next year. I really am. I mean, he's one of the guys that I'm most excited to watch. He's one of those guys that you're going to highlight and definitely make sure Broncos country to watch in the preseason. I want to see those next steps as a defensive back.
You'll want to mark it down as something to watch out for training camp. I think it's one of the high points of what we're all looking forward to. Sean Payton has done nothing but praise him for his smartness, his football IQ, and then additionally the instincts that are there at play, which just show up during minicamp. They're going to show up during training camp, so they're absolutely going to show up during the season. Zach.
And to the point about watching him in training camp, I fully agree with what you said about his intelligence and everything, but watching him in training camp is going to be so interesting to me because I want to see how the Broncos are lining him up and using him. Because I am worried, although I think he's great and versatile and can be really good around the ball, I think he is best in that Fangio style defense where you have the split safeties with him and Justin Simmons, and you're disguising a lot of looks and you're asking them both to do a lot of different things, because I think what makes those guys both so talented is how well-rounded their talents are. I'm worried. The one thing that might ruin all of this Caden Stern star talk is if Vance Joseph just forces him into a role he's not, he shouldn't be playing, which to me would be like a box safety.
Yeah, I could see that. I think he's very versatile, though. That is one thing I will say about Caden Stearns is that's probably the one defensive back position there that I would be worried about with that. Bree froze. Zach, you're looking at me crazy.
Well, she was still in our little bottom thing.
Like I deleted it so that it wouldn't. You're like,
Bree? I was like, what did I just say that made Bree remove herself from the call? But she's still in here.
No, I just did that real quick. I took it out. I'll continue that though. Is I think Caden Stearns, I don't know. I think we could wrap up the Caden Stearns. Can I give mine real quick?
Yeah, go, Joey.
Okay, I think that this one here is the most. I'm going to just say this, Jonathan Cooper. I think Jonathan Cooper is really, really, really good already. I think it's like the Broncos keep trying to make him not that guy when he's that guy. I really do think that Jonathan Cooper, if we're talking consistency, he's the most consistent edge rusher we have on the Broncos. He really is. He definitely is. He's more consistent than Baron Browning. He's more consistent than Randy Gregory. You can go up and down. Look at everybody. Jonathan Cooper is that guy, and they just keep trying to put different guys in front of him. And what happens? They're not working out, or question mark. Jonathan Cooper's the consistent guy in there. And I mean, I'm looking, Zach, for everyone here. He put a little list together of some potentials before this, and I'm sitting here looking at the list. How much better is Quinn Miners at his position than Jonathan Cooper is right now? How much better is Baron Browning than Jonathan Cooper is at his position right now? We could go down. Damari Sanders, Caden Stearns. These are I think that Jonathan Cooper is firmly right there, and it's just him establishing himself this next year, and he should be definitely a star.
I love this pick. It was one of the weirder ones I threw on that list, like you mentioned, Joey. And I think there's a great chance for it. He plays edge like you were talking about. He's very consistent like you were talking about. And because those guys ahead of him are inconsistent in terms of Baron Browning and Randy Gregory, I think injury is what especially has to get highlighted there. In terms of Frank Clark, I would highlight play. Nick Benito, I'd highlight the ability to defend the run and just play in general. So, man, if Randy Gregory gets injured early in the season, we already have Baron Browning's injury he's coming back from at the front end of the season. It's not hard for me to imagine Jonathan Cooper getting a lot of snaps in this defense, maybe even stealing away a starting job. And a guy who I think reminds me a lot of Jonathan Cooper in a way, or a Bronco that does, Tim Patrick, this late round draft pick who probably didn't deserve to go that late and is really athletic, like an early round draft pick that is more likely to reach this star or superstar status. Had a surprising fall to the end of the draft. And as a result, is kind of underrated and doesn't get enough credit for his immense athletic talents. And so I think factoring all that in together, I could see a similar rise to what we saw from Tim Patrick, where this show started with Joey talking about how Tim Patrick's an established star. I think Jonathan Cooper could one day be in that realm too.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll just ask, like, what is his biggest issue? Like, can he rush the passer? Yes. Can he stop the run? Can he? Yes. Like, this is a guy that should be on the field playing for the Broncos. We go down. You know what it is? It's a late round thing. When you're a Tim Patrick and you're undrafted, when you're a Jonathan Cooper and you're a 7th round pick, everyone wants to put a cap on your potential. Meanwhile, I don't know why. Like, what has he shown me to say that I should be putting a cap on his potential? Tim Patrick has all the ability to get further than that. I think Jonathan Cooper can get better. I see areas of improvement for him. Like, it's why? There's no really reason other than, I don't know. We just don't give these guys the benefit of the doubt because of where their draft slot is.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Bree. The one gap, just to answer your first question, to me would be the lack of an elite skill or like an elite pass rushing move or something that you think, well, all right. Well, that
chop rip, bro. That chop rip is pretty nasty from him. I'm not even going to lie.
Sorry, Bree. I didn't mean to steal your thunder. Go.
No, it's fine. I just was going to point to an earlier comment by Frankie Abbott about the edge position, how it's a little hard to quantify that. I think even Sean Payton has had multiple statements about Jonathan Cooper and enjoying his explosiveness, the experience that's running there. I think 14 quarterback hits and 2.5 sacks from Cooper in his last 2 years. Not a whole lot of seasonary and stats that you can pull out of there. But then let's take a look at former Bronco Von Miller. You would have absolutely zero hesitations in qualifying him as a superstar player. What made him stand out? A lot of explosiveness, his ability to hunt down a quarterback, just blatant instincts when you are pass rushing. So I think that if you're going to see those types of characteristics from Jonathan Cooper, you can really start to solidify him as a star because he doesn't do anything poorly. Therefore, why doesn't he exist in that tier just out of the blue? I like Joey's. Why not?
Why not? Why not? That's the question. Why not? That's what we got to ask ourselves about these undrafted guys is why not? Or these late round drafted guys is why not?
Yep. I love it. And one other tiny little silly point as to Jonathan Cooper reaching star status, changing it up to the number 0. Joey talked about how the celebrity factor, I think, is maybe something in all of this. Number 0 is a lot cooler than number 53. It's going to be a lot easier to be like, oh, that guy's a star. Silly. I think it matters.
I'm going to read this comment from Coop over on YouTube. I think the late round thing might be part of it. Also, coaching might be part of it as well. All coaches have their darlings. Everybody has their biases, even if coaches aren't supposed to. Looking at you, Vic Fangio. Guys, that'll do it for our superstar star roundtable here for Let's Talk Broncos. But that just means time for everybody's favorite part of the evening. That's Joey's question of the day.
Yes, everybody. Joey's question of the day. This is the question I want to ask. Bree, you started off with some rapid fire. I want to continue upon that a little bit. That was my plan before. I want to ask you guys how many sacks does a Randy Gregory get in the season, would you say, if he played all 16?
That's tough.
Or 17, right? No.
Yeah, 5. 5. I'm going 5.
5.
Okay.
Whoa.
All right. I'm good with that.
I'm going to say 12, 13. But I'm kind of talking out of both my sides of my mouth there because I say 12, 13. I don't know if that's quite super.
You start all the games. Did you play 17 games?
But even like 17 games and you're getting like 13 sacks, like I think that makes you one of the better pass rusher in the league. But you're probably more in the really tier than superstar. It's really good, but I don't know if it's quite superstar. I think somewhere in that 12 range.
All right. Well, cool. That's Joey's question of the day.
Mine was really low because I'm fighting a Wi-Fi gremlin over here, so I'm just shooting out numbers. I was like 5. I was like trying to do the math, and then I was like, "Oh, that's really low." Oh, now we're getting horns.
He's trying to. Hey, no excuses. Right in the middle of what you're talking about. That's crazy.
Coop says 11.5.
Yeah.
I just threw out a number because I was distracted, but it was 5. 5 seems fair. If he plays the entire season, I'll double it and go 10. Guys, where can everybody find your stuff?
Yeah, everyone, please follow me at JR Drafts. Make sure you're going to the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. You're subscribing and liking our videos, and that's all I really have today, guys. The Clady jersey, Coop. Wait 1 second. Right here. I have it lower now. I have the DT one up top, Clady jersey below. But yes, everyone, please go subscribe to Let's Talk Broncos. Yeah, that's where you can find your work. Zach, where can they find your work, man?
You can find my work over here at Let's Talk Broncos. Little bit of buff stuff over at milehighsports.com, but please, Let's Talk Broncos on YouTube. Lots of cool stuff going on over there, gearing up for our new season. And then Zach_Seegers on Twitter. I'm gearing up for more Broncos training camp coverage and all that good stuff. So stay tuned for that.
And I think Bree is frozen right now. So
I was wondering.
You can go follow Bree at what is it at Bree Maces 303.
Yep, at Bree Maces 303.
Go make sure you go following her. She's doing amazing work. She always does amazing work. She's fantastic on Twitter. Specifically. So make sure you're going to follow her. I think she'd echo my statements and that you should go follow and like in the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. Please, guys, everyone.
For Facebook.
That's it. Yeah. And everyone, please have a great 4th of July. Stay safe. And until next time, guys, go Broncos.
Yep. Happy 4th. Go Broncos.